Hello, everyone. How are we doing? Good to see everyone talking about where they're tuning in from today. Hi, Phil from Tokyo. Hi, Nicholas from Manchester. Hi, Nick from London. Hi, Rob from Stratford. Oliver, Brittany from Florida. Wow. Nicholas said, Aaron, are you here? Are you wearing a polo shirt? I've got a polo shirt to show you, actually. This is a very, very nice polo shirt that arrived in the post. From Develop, our client. It's a very, very good quality shirt. Thank you, Develop, for the shirt. Hi, David from Austin. Hi, Ken from New Jersey. Hi, Adam from Northern Ireland. Hello, Catherine from Stockholm. This is amazing. Nick just said burger. Nick, I wouldn't mind a burger myself. Today, we're going to be talking about generative AI and most importantly, how to improve your visibility or how to actually dominate in AI search. So you'll have heard us talking a lot over the last year and a half about Google AI Overviews, or SGE as it was before then. You'll have heard us talk recently a lot about Generative Engine Optimisation, or GEO, which we're seeing as the sort of the future, if you like, of SEO, where not only are we optimizing to get our visibility in search engines, but we're also optimizing to get these generative AI tools to recommend our business, our products, and our services when people are searching with them. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, but we're going to be going a layer deeper than we've shared about this topic before. Because what I'm actually going to be doing, as well as giving you a bit of an overview of why generative engine optimization is so important and how to dominate in AI search, I'm also going to be taking you behind the scenes of a generative engine optimization game plan. This is the piece of work that we do for our clients when we are mapping out how they can benefit from this. So not only are we going to be talking about the theory of GEO, we're actually going to be digging into the practical of how the team here at Exposure Ninja do GEO for our clients. And I'm going to be showing you some of the I guess the pillars in a GEO game plan. Now, of course, I'm going to be showing you how this works. You can either do this yourself if you want Exposure Ninja to carry out one of these GEO game plans for you, then absolutely we can do that. But the important thing is that you see what's included in these so that you can then build this into part of your marketing plans for 2025, because this really is a very important moment in digital marketing where we are seeing the emergence of new channels, and we really are starting to see user patterns switching to generative AI. So it's very important that we're all preparing for this. So as always, we've got some comments. This is a new webinar platform that we're playing with. I hope you enjoy it. Dale, our head of marketing, found it. They're a big fan of it, and I think looks really, really cool as well. So you've got a little chat window. Feel free to stick any questions in there, but there's also a Q&A section that you can pop some questions into. So if you've got any questions as we go, just stick them in. If I see them, I'll answer them now. Otherwise, we should have some time for Q&A at the end. So just a bit of a structure for today then. We're going to look at some of the basics of generative AI, what it really means for businesses. And then for most of today, we're going to be looking at this GEO game plan, and we're going to be going through some of the components of this so you can see how it works and you can do it yourself. Let's dominate. Okay, let's get stuck in them. So, quick survey. We're going to be playing with the polls in this thing as well. Let's do a quick survey. Full audience participation is absolutely mandatory. This first one, who uses generative AI at least weekly? And for bonus points, let me know in the Q&A which tools you're using, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity or Claude. Claude, my personal favorite. Here we go. Wow. Okay, so we've got a lot of users of generative AI, at least weekly. Fantastic. Okay. Good, interesting. I think that's kind of what we expected. We've got people using ChatGPT, ChatGPT Daily, Claude. Yes, Ken, I'm Claude. Matt, Gemini with you. Catherine says Claude, ChatGPT. All three, ChatGPT. Interesting. Not much Perplexity use. I've got to say, I'm now using Perplexity significantly more than Google. But actually, we're going to come back to that. Let's close this poll because we are going to carry on. Now, one of the important things to mention is that whilst if you're using these tools, you are not alone. Here is the chart showing ChatGPT's popularity over time. On this session, we probably are amongst the leading edge users of generative AI just because of the business that we're in and the space that we're in, the fact it's our job to keep up with these technologies. Now, all of these things are trending up, but at various points today, I'm going to do a bit of a reality check, and we're going to remind ourselves that actually, just because we're often using generative AI on a daily basis, I probably use Perplexity and Claude maybe 10 times as often as I use Google. There are days when I don't use Google at all. And 6 months ago, that wasn't the case. But I have to keep reminding myself that I am not the typical user. We might be maybe slightly further ahead. We might be in a different space. As marketers, we have to optimize for what people are using out there, our target customers. Where are they spending their time? But nevertheless, ChatGPT is on a big uptrend, as is a surprise to absolutely no one. Next survey. This is actually going to be the only survey as well. How do I get this survey out, Dale? Survey time. Who uses? Here we go. How much of your website traffic comes from organic search? I'm interested to know this. Okay, so we've analyzed, consulted with, advised maybe 40, 50,000 businesses over the last 12 years now. And most of the ones that we've analyzed in GA or Google Analytics or GA4 get the majority of their traffic from organic search. This is a very common thing. Most businesses do get most of their traffic from organic search because you've got branded search, you've got you've got obviously informational search, you've got commercial search. And for many people, Google is their sort of entry point to the internet. But let me show you why this might be somewhat worrying for some people. This is, granted, it's just Bing, but this is a chart showing Bing's relative popularity against ChatGPT on Google Trends. Now, sad times, right? Sad times for Bing. Now, I'm not saying Bing is irrelevant. Absolutely, Bing is not irrelevant, but it is the second biggest web search engine. And look at how it is being dominated by ChatGPT. Basically, since ChatGPT was released, it has been crushing Bing. Now, for context, let's keep our perspective here. Google still massively more popular than either of these. But if you're eagle-eyed, look at the shape of that yellow line. Look at the trend line there versus ChatGPT. And in fact, go back to before ChatGPT or when ChatGPT had just been released. The gap between ChatGPT and Google is maybe twice as big as it is now. So for me, this is an indication that there could be a shift going on. If you follow me on LinkedIn or you've seen one of the videos I've been posting recently on the Exposure Ninja channel, there's actually data from the UK showing that Google's UK users have actually dropped for the first time year on year. And that's before ChatGPT had web search capabilities. So that's showing that maybe ChatGPT is chipping away at Google's market share even before it could do what Google did, which I think is really interesting. So I'm not saying Google's dead. At no point am I ever going to say that. Google is still very, very much the most popular search tool of anyone. And we need to be optimizing for Google. We've got clients making vast amounts of money on Google, and they will be doing for the next quarter, the next year, the next 2 years, the next multiple years. But we as marketers also need to be ready for the future. We need to be optimizing for where people are today, but we also need to be planning for where they are in the future. And I think this is a very clear indication that people might be moving in a certain direction. As we'll see, of course, even Google searches, though, are optimized are impacted by generative AI. So I think this really is a big shift. By the way, for those who don't know me, who may be new to Exposure Ninja, my name's Tim. I'm the founder of Exposure Ninja. We're a digital marketing agency. We do all these different services. We're now also buying some of our clients. So if you're really fed up with your business, then do reach out. Particularly interested in renewables businesses in the UK, particularly in the south of the UK. So if you've got a heat pump or a solar business, or you do insulation for homes, then please hit me up, tim@exposureninja.com. Anyway, we're also pioneers in generative engine optimization. We've been on the cutting edge of all of this stuff since before any of it came out. We were very new with Google's AI overviews in particular. And we share everything that we learn on YouTube and through our books. The new version of the book, by the way, is updated for all this GEO stuff. So if you want to get a stocking filler for those that you love, then you can head over to Amazon and buy the How to Get to the Top of Google 2025 book. It is updated for all of this stuff. So back to this chart. So we can see Google's the most popular. So we may be thinking, all right, it's generative AI stuff, you know, it's one for the future, but it's not one for now. However, even when you go to Google, you're still getting generative AI. This was the previous version of Google search results. You can see for this search, there's a featured snippet there. It tells us it's an informational search. So the featured snippet is text copy taken from the linked website. We've got this people also ask section, which again, if you expand any of these accordions, you get text copy taken from the website. And then of course, you've got the list of regular organic results, the website. This as a search engine is designed to help you find the website that has the information that you need, right? The website that has the information that you need. Well, of course, Google's AI overviews, which we are all familiar with, are now rolled out to 1 billion users worldwide, making this the most popular generative AI tool by a mile, okay? We've got 1 billion people using this thing, whether they know it or not. So this is something that we have to be optimizing for. Even if we have no interest in ChatGPT, this is here now. Of course, all of this produced by generative AI. There are some website links, of course, but the point is that Google is showing generative AI. We need to be optimizing for this. Ken, the audiobook is not yet updated. It's on my to-do list. It takes me a little while and a lot of cough syrup. So yeah, it will be coming in the short to mid-term. The regular search results, of course, are still there, but they're just pushed below the page. And we're going to look at some examples of this later on. So we are looking at a fundamental shift in SEO and digital marketing more broadly, right? Lots of us are getting the majority of our traffic from Google, from organic search. Generative AI's goal is different to Google's goal. Generative AI wants to answer the question rather than give a website that answers the question. So we need to be ready for this and we need to be planning for this. This isn't the end. This doesn't mean that all of our traffic and our sales are going to be decimated, although they will be if we're not ready, right? If we're not preparing for this and we're not figuring out how to win in this new space. Fundamentally, people are going to be buying the same number of things as they always have done, potentially more things, but we need to make sure that they're buying our things. And if they're not finding our things, they're not going to buy our things. So it's all about getting found. Two main ways that we're going to win using AI overviews in particular. Firstly, getting featured in the answer, so being one of the websites that is listed as providing information in the answer. And then secondly, generative AI overviews, just like any of these tools, will recommend businesses, products, and services. And the real battleground is making sure it's recommending your business, your products, and your services. So that's a lot of what we're going to look at today. Of course, there is a third way, which is pay-per-click advertising. So Google has already rolled out PPC in AI overviews in the US on mobile. So it will be coming to the rest of the world and other devices in the future. We also heard maybe in the last couple of weeks, or maybe in the last week actually, that OpenAI is considering ad products. There was an interview with someone or other high up at OpenAI that said, yes, we're considering ad products, which is not a massive surprise given that they've hired some of the top advertising execs from both Google and Instagram. So they've been hiring ad people, but Sam Altman has always said ads are dirty, scummy. We don't want to be involved with that. Well, now they're considering it. So that could be very interesting as well, but there's nothing current here yet. So we're mostly focusing on organic visibility at the moment in these tools. When I spoke to a bunch of marketing agencies at the start of this year, I've got to be honest, the overwhelming feeling amongst them was, we hope that this shit never gets released. We hope they just bury this thing and take it away. Well, when Google released AI overviews and it started telling people to like glue cheese on their pizza and eat rocks, they were partying. Yes, this thing's so terrible. No one's ever going to use it. They're going to, generative AI isn't ready for the mainstream. Sad times. It's getting better. Google rolled it back. Now they're pushing it out again. It's getting so much better. Google CEO and Alphabet CEO Sundar has really put his reputation on the line, saying this is going to be the future of search. Google is heavily invested in this, and you would not bet against them making this thing work. Phil says, I'm still seeing conventional search results. How do I get onto AI overviews? Phil, a couple of things that you can try. Firstly, If you use Chrome, I tend to get more AI overviews showing up in Chrome than on Safari or other browsers. The other thing that you could try is actually using a US VPN, because US AI overviews tend to be more frequent and more detailed in different formats than the UK ones. So if in doubt, you can try that. So we need to be prepared for a future where AI overviews and other AI search tools are here, and they are being used heavily. Generative engines are the marketing battleground of the future. This is an emerging space, but let's keep in mind that ChatGPT search trajectory, this is clearly where things are going. And any of us who have been on the sort of the cutting edge, the leading edge of using these tools will know that the user experience is often vastly superior. So it's not a case of will this happen, it's a case of when will this happen, and most importantly for us marketers, are we prepared for this? Okay, so we're going to look at how to win in generative engine optimization. Now, previously in different videos, we've basically broken this into 3 chunks. And we've had a quite, I don't want to say simplistic, but quite a minimal view on how to win in generative engine optimization. But like I said at the start, what we're doing today is a layer deeper than that. What we're doing today is we're going through the process that's used by the Exposure Ninja team when they're doing one of these GEO game plans for clients. So it's a shortened version, granted, because the GEO game plan ends up being sort of 80 odd pages of deep research. You don't have time for that, and I don't have the voice to go through all of that today. So what I'm going to do is take you through some of the key highlights and just explain a bit about how each of these pieces works so that you can implement it yourself, or if you want us to do it for you, then we can absolutely do that. Just go to exposure.ninja/GEO, and you can then book a call with one of the team to talk about this. But this is a paid service, so I'm going to show you exactly are broken into 4 sections. So the first section is SEO benchmarking. We're going to talk about each of these in a bit more detail, but SEO benchmarking is the first stage because all of these tools, with the exception of Claude, are typically doing a background web search before they give you some results. So we need to make sure that we're ranking in that background web search in order to even get in the game. So we're going to talk about a couple of different ways of doing this. SEO benchmarking is basically how are you ranking in Bing, in Google, and in Brave, which are the 3 search indexes that are used by these tools. And then it's about doing the basics of SEO. So if you've been following Exposure Ninja for a while, there's going to be nothing in the SEO benchmark section that's particularly surprising. This is just doing good SEO. Then we move into part 2, which is AI overviews. The reason that we give AI overviews their own section is exactly what I said before, because they've got 1 billion users using AI overviews. We need to make sure that is priority number 1. That comes before any ChatGPT ranking. That comes before even thinking about Perplexity, because so many people are using this. We need to be ranking there. There's some very specific things that you need to do that. Part 3 is AI sentiment analysis, and this isn't something that you'll see covered elsewhere. As far as I know, we were one of the originators of this, and full prop to Nick from Exposure Ninja, who came up with this and built this process. So this is drilling into what the AI tools know about you, what these large language models know about your business. This is really important because we're moving to a phase where the searcher is going to ask the AI tool to go and do research, and it's going to come back with some recommendations. Now, the recommendations it makes are going to be based on what it knows about you, your business, your product, your service, and your competitors. So we need to make sure that that knowledge is firstly accurate, and then secondly presents you in a great light. So we're going to look at that in a bit more detail in the sentiment analysis section. And then part 4 is going to be all of this stuff is going to open some loops, show you some things that you need to work on. Part 4 is about how do we prioritize this and turn it into something that we can actually implement over the next year. Okay. Let's get stuck in then with the SEO benchmarking section. So the reason that this is so important, here's a search on Perplexity. So for those who don't know the structure of Perplexity, what we've got up at the top here is the search query that I've used. So in this case, what are the best CRMs for software businesses? So Perplexity is a generative AI search. It then takes that query and chunks it into searches that it does in the background using either Google, Bing, or Brave. I think it's using Brave. I don't know that 100%. I don't think they've confirmed that, but I think it's using Brave. But those are the main 3 indexes. So it's running a background web search, and you can see in this case, it's search for best CRMs for software businesses 2024, top CRM software for tech companies 2024, and one other search. It then reads the results for those search queries, summarizes the information, and then gives you an answer. And then it links to the sources of that information. So as you can see from this search, I've searched for what are the best CRMs for software businesses, and Perplexity has then made some recommendations: Salesforce, HubSpot, and etc., etc., etc. Right. So we want to get recommended here. We want our business to be recommended. I mean, obviously not for CRMs for software businesses, unless that's your jam, but we need to be recommended when people are asking AIs these types of questions. So as you can see, we need to be ranking, or we need to be featured in these search results that are being pulled here. There's 2 ways of doing this. There's, of course, having your business ranking, your website ranking in these search results. And then the other thing that we need to do, which we're going to come back to later in content marketing and digital PR, is making sure that your business products or services are being featured in the third-party websites that are ranking here. So best CRM for software businesses, we've got an article from PC Mag. Is your CRM being mentioned in that article? That's going to be a really key battleground in this future of generative AI search. So we need to do a bit of SEO analysis and make sure that we're being ranked, that our website is ranking, and that we're being featured on these other sites. Exactly the same process happens with ChatGPT. What you'll notice is if you ask ChatGPT an answer and it doesn't know the answer, or it thinks it might be useful to go and look online, it will go and search the web. And of course, it's then going to use Bing to crawl through some search results, take out that information and summarize it in the answer. So we need to be making sure we're found in those underlying search results. So part of the SEO analysis that we do, of course, looking at your visibility, mainly on Google, because to be honest, if you're SEOing and you're doing well on Google, you'll tend to do well on Bing and Brave as well. But making sure that, you've got strong visibility, having a look at the key pages that are ranking. Are your service or product pages ranking well, or is it just your informational pages? How's your homepage? What sorts of keywords is your homepage ranking for? This is just basic SEO, right? Because these questions that Perplexity is asking, these are just like traditional SEO questions. So we need to make sure that we're ranking for those types of questions with the content on our website. But we also need to be thinking about keywords. Again, this is like traditional SEO. What are the keywords that we want to rank for searchers, but also what are the keywords that we want to rank for these AI tools that are searching? So we'll do keyword research. We'll work out what current traffic is going to be driving from each of these keywords. And then, of course, estimated traffic if you're ranking position 1 for this keyword. Now, there's an asterisk here, isn't there? Because not only are we optimizing for human searches, but we're now also optimizing for AI search tools. So even though for this particular search here, insolvency practitioner at the top, we're ranking position 19. If we were ranking at position 1, we'd be getting 870 visitors instead of 10 visitors a month, potential growth of 860 people. But as well as the people, we've got all the AI tools as well. So there could be other AI searches that are bringing us forward, that are recommending us to people based on our visibility for this search. But all of this is keyword research. This is like the fundamentals of SEO. This stuff hasn't changed since I started doing SEO way back in like 2007, I think was my first campaign. We also need to think about schema. So schema is structured data that you can add to your site to give a greater context to generative AI crawlers. It's basically a way of standardizing information about different types of things. We can see some examples of schema here. For example, on the Samsung product page, we've got review schema, we've got price, we've got stock status, we've got some recipe schema down here. You can have your e-commerce product feed as well, which is also schema. So we need to make sure that you've got all your schema set up properly, because some of these Gen AI tools will actually use that schema when they're listing their results. We've got Perplexity in the US, for example, actually recommending products. Now, Rob has said, we see it in referral traffic stats. Yes, it's not uncommon for, we're seeing, I think ChatGPT was our top referral source last month. Perplexity was also up there as well. So it's very, very common for us to see referral traffic coming from ChatGPT and Perplexity. Now, what we won't see is we won't see in Google Analytics or Search Console, we won't see traffic split out from Google's AI overviews. All of that is just going to show up as organic search traffic. Unfortunately, Google isn't splitting that out, just as it doesn't split it out between, maps listings and regular search, or people also asked and featured snippets. Like Google just shows you organic search traffic. So we're not going to see how much of that is coming from AI overviews. But maybe someday we will get something on that. So schema is really important as well. Basically, in the SEO benchmarking, we're having a look at where you're ranking, the technical SEO analysis of the site. We're looking at everything from site speed through to the schema stuff to, is your robots blocking anything? Are we making the most of crawl budget? Like all of that technical SEO stuff, which Andy and the SEO team do so well at Exposure Ninja, all being handled in this part one, because we need a good SEO foundation if we're going to get anywhere with GEO. So let's talk about section 2, which is the AI overview. So this is where stuff starts to get a little bit different. Now, here's an AI overview search result, which is pretty small. I'm just going to zoom myself out so you can have a quick look at this. The question I want to ask you here is spot the loser on this page. Spot the loser on this page. And let me just talk through what we're looking at. We've got this search query is how do I improve my sales conversion rate? We've got this massive AI overview section up at the top here. We've got the top organic result with a featured snippet here from Unbounce. And what we've got here is actually sort of 26 ways to increase organic conversion rates on your landing pages, which actually isn't that's not the answer to the question. The question is, how do I improve my sales conversion rate? So that's kind of interesting. But there we go. Who's the loser? Sam's got it absolutely spot on. It is Unbounce. Unbounce is the big fat loser in this situation. Why? Well, because Unbounce has gone from having featured snippet right at the top of the page, getting probably, 30, 35% of all of the clicks on that page, to being pushed way further down the page. And it gets even worse. Jacob says all the PPC advertisers. There's no PPC for this. It's too informational. But yes, also. But even worse for Unbounce, they're not featured anywhere in this AI overviews answer, right? They're not in this answer. So that means they've gone from getting the lion's share of the traffic to being pushed way, way further down the page. This is a worst case scenario. The reason that they're not being featured here is because they haven't optimized the content on their page for AI overviews. AI overviews likes content in a certain format if it's going to rank, if it's going to include that content in the AI overview section. And Unbounce haven't done that here. So this is one of the main things that we need to do on your site, is make sure that your content is optimized for AI overviews. Now, we've covered this in loads of previous videos. Here is some great comments here. Who's the loser? Sam says, also the user. Lol. Good stuff. Yeah, all right. Different versions of losers, right? We need to make sure that your content's optimized for AI overviews. We've been doing testing on this for absolutely ages. We were doing this a year ago before this stuff was even out. Here's an early test case where we weren't ranking. So Exposure Ninja was ranking position 1 on regular Google. This was when the AI overviews were still SGE. Position 1 on Google, nowhere to be seen in AI overviews. We tweaked the content, we played with it, submitted it to Search Console for re-indexing, and within 5 hours, linked number 1 in AI overviews and throughout the answer. We're still doing this for clients. It's a fantastic thing to do. It's difficult. It's not as easy as getting featured snippets because the generative AI answers can change. You can get ranked in 5 hours, but you can also lose your ranking in 5 hours, right? There's a lot of turnover. A lot of these answers are being generated, it seems, from scratch each time. So that obviously means it's not as predictable as the regular search results. But I mean, you can get featured. Like if you get featured in AI overviews and you get linked to position number 1 or position number 2, like at the top of the answer, usually it's a pretty safe bet. It's just not as like bulletproof reliable as the regular search results, but you still need to do it. So obviously, you need to optimize the content for it. One of the things that we do in the GEO game plan is look for AI overviews opportunities. So here are the questions that you need to ask if you're doing this for yourself. Which searches are producing AI overviews? Different industries have different types of searches producing AI overviews. Medical, financial tend to be a little bit more conservative. You don't see, like if you're in investment advice, for example, you might not see any AI overviews. You might get stuff for definition, like what is a Bitcoin, for example. But if you ask a question like, should I invest in Bitcoin ETFs? No AI overviews. Google doesn't want to be drawn into that battle at all, right? But for a lot of businesses, there are particularly informational queries that are bringing AI overviews. So you need to understand broadly in your space what types of searches are bringing these. The next thing we need to understand is what types of websites are ranking. Are these informational websites? Are they third parties? Or are these actually the businesses that are trying to make money from these searches? How visible are you? This is a really important thing to check. Now, there are tools out there like SE Ranking and SEMrush, which will give you some data on AI overview visibility. At the moment, it's pretty patchy. The reliability is patchy because, like I said, these answers are being generated from scratch sometimes each time. So it's not like you can check a cached version of search results. Sometimes the AI overviews do seem to be cached, but a lot of the time they're not. So they're actually different each time. So it's not sort of a reliable way of saying, yes, you're definitely ranking position 2 in the AI overviews. So my advice is have a play with this yourself, do some analysis yourself, or if we're working with you, we'll do that and give you an indication of, right, you're pretty visible or actually you know where to be seen. What are your initial priority focus areas? So this will come from your analysis and come from spotting your visibility. If there are particular, middle of funnel or bottom of funnel searches that are bringing up AI overviews, particularly if you're already ranking well organically, those will be your top priorities because you can often just tweak the formatting of your content to get yourself in AI overviews. If you've got some, really top of funnel stuff that's very low likelihood of turning into any sales, and you're not ranking organically for those queries, that's going to be a lower priority because firstly, you've got to get ranking to get even in the game. And then secondly, you've then got to optimize the AI overviews. But, if there's very little commercial intent there, it's going to be a lower priority than some of the stuff that's going to make us some money right today. And then what are the content gaps? So usually you'll find that there are either topic or format gaps. Now, what do we mean by topic and format gaps? Topic means you just don't have content on that topic, obviously. So we're going to have to post some content on that topic. Format might mean you don't have content in the format that AI Overviews likes to reward. Okay, so let's say that you identified that there's a particular product related query that you want to rank for in AI Overviews. Maybe Google is serving blog posts as the AI overview sources, but you've got a product page that's ranking. Well, you might want to create a different format page, i.e. a blog post page, in order to get that AI overview ranking. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Okay, next part, the AI sentiment analysis. So this is where we look at what the AIs actually know about your business. Why is this important? When I do a search on Claude for what are the best value skincare brands, which, by the way, is a totally legit question, I would totally ask that. Claude answers The Ordinary, which is an exposure ninja client. So how is this happening? Particularly because Claude doesn't yet access the internet. So Claude's not doing a background web search like Perplexity is, like Google AI Overviews is, like Gemini is. Claude is just spurting out an answer, right? Claude is locked in a box in a prison cell, and you say, what's the best value skincare brands? Claude doesn't have Wi-Fi. It just goes, The Ordinary. So why is that happening? How is Claude coming up with that answer? Well, as you know, when all of these tools are trained, they are ingesting vast amounts of information online. So they're reading all these pages from Reddit, they're reading all the sludge in Reddit, they're taking it all in, they're reading all the blogs, they're reading all the magazine sites, the news sites, they may be watching videos, they're learning about all of these different topics. And as they learn, they build up this picture of the world, they have these relationships with different entities, different concepts. So when I ask what are the best value skincare brands, and Claude says The Ordinary, that's because those concepts are linked in its training data, in its understanding of the world. So this is essentially the sentiment analysis. This is understanding what Claude knows about The Ordinary. And we can interrogate Claude a little bit more to get a bit more of an understanding about what it knows or what it thinks it knows about the ordinary. We can do this with all of the tools, of course, but Claude is an interesting case because it doesn't have access to the internet. Adam says, what format does AI like? I'm actually going to come back to that at the end because that is a potential rabbit hole which can take me way off course on the old timescales things. So why are we doing this audit for AI? Why do we care about the sentiment analysis? Well, of course, as more people are turning to AI for information, we need to make sure that that information is correct, right? We need to make sure that the fundamental understanding this thing has of your business, your products, and your services is actually right. If I'll show you an example in just a second that illustrates this. AI auditing also allows us to identify SEO and content marketing opportunities. So how can we get more coverage for our products, our businesses, our brands about the sorts of topics that we want to be known for? And it also gives us opportunities to improve our brand positioning. So where do we sit against competitors? If somebody says, find me, let's say you're a health and safety inspection business, find me a health and safety inspection business that is really reliable and has really high standards. Okay, so how do these AIs choose between you and your competitors to work out who has the highest standards? Well, that's up to us as marketers to put that information out there so that these AIs have something to play with. So what are some of the questions that we're looking at? Well, we're looking at things like common sentiment threads. Where do you sit on professionalism and approachability? Do the AIs think of your business as really highly professional? Do they think of you as really approachable, really easy to talk to, really familiar? Okay, because there's going to be different scenarios where one or the other of those is preferable. Where do you sit on the cost quality spectrum? Of course, you're going to say we're really competitive on price and we're the best quality in the world. But for every other business, there is a spectrum between being very low cost and being very high quality. So where do you sit on that boundary? Now, we saw that in that previous example, the ordinary is considered low cost, but it's also considered very high quality. That's the holy grail. But do these AI tools know that about you? Do they know where you sit? Do they know how much you charge? Integrity and transparency. So these are things that you want to be known for, but the AI tools need to typically see specific examples in order to say that you have integrity and transparency. We're going to look at an example of this in just a second. So how are we feeding them with this information that allows them to position us to the searcher as high integrity, high transparency? So all of this sentiment is picked up from various different sources. AI is looking at reviews. It's looking at the content on your website and features where you've been featured on other people's websites. Okay, it's taking in all that information when it decides what your brand, what your products and services are all about. Does this make sense? Hopefully it does. So here's an example. What's different about Exposure Ninja is a search that I've just run on Perplexity here. Perplexity has done its search and it's come up with AI integration. So the fact that we've integrated AI in our services, which, yeah, okay, fine. Flexible work environment and award-winning performance. I'm pretty happy with that. So what happened if we search for what's different about Exposure Ninja and the tool said, Exposure Ninja is responsible for half of global warming, right? Well, that would be incorrect. We need to go and find the source of that. We'd want to know that, of course. We'd need to go and find the source of that in order to correct it. Or there might be some confusion with a different brand. There's an oil company called Exposure Ninja or whatever, right? So you might be thinking, well, who's going to search for something like what's different about my brand? Why would anybody search for that? But here's the thing. We're moving from a time where it's the user searching for this to actually the AI tools searching for this. Let me give you another example. Best beds for lazy cats. This is a search in Perplexity. And you'll see that Perplexity has gone and recommended some particular products. Now, when it's recommending these products, it's giving me a bit of a sales pitch on these particular products. This is where that sentiment analysis comes in, because this copy here isn't necessarily provided by the brand, by the company that made these cat beds. This copy is generated because the AI has looked at other copy from other sources. Does this make sense? This is a really important difference. We're used to telling the users about our products, our business, our services. But what we're moving to here is we're just pumping this information out online. The AIs are then taking that and translating it for the audience. So it's like we're speaking through a generative AI interpreter to get our key messages to the customer. So what does this mean? This means that this information needs to be accurate, but it also means it needs to be really, really compelling and concise. So we're moving from a time where it's your website selling your business to AIs selling your business on your behalf. And that's when all of this positioning, all of this messaging stuff becomes so important. What does the AI know about your business? That's why we do the sentiment analysis. Let's talk about market position domination. So some of the areas that we need to think about here, I mean, just some basic stuff. We ask the AI tools, have you heard of X? And we ask them to tell us about the brand. And in this case, all the tools had heard from this particular client, except for Gemini, that thought this client was actually a person. Okay, so that's something that we need to go and correct. Maybe that's publishing a piece of content called who is blah, 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 or what is blah, 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 so that when Gemini is running that search, it's finding that answer and parroting it back to the audience. Does that make sense? So we really need to be very careful about the messages that these AIs are communicating and make sure that we're influencing that as much as possible. So if these AI tools are going to be recommending you, they need to know, of course, who you are. They need to know what you do, and they need to know what makes you different. And this messaging needs to be simple enough that they can communicate that back to searchers succinctly and in a compelling way. So sometimes this means that there has to be some more fundamental brand positioning work done. And we do that for clients. We have something called the brand accelerator, where we do this stuff. We work with the business and its customers. We ask the customers directly. We get on the phone with them and say, like, why did you choose this company? Like, what stands out? What's different about them? So that we can make sure that is reflected in not just the website content, but also the content that's posted on other sites online. So lots of things that we want to understand. This is some examples from a client. So what I've done is I've redacted the client's name and industry so that, I don't want to be sharing their sensitive information, but I wanted to show you this to you as an example of some of the insight that you're looking for when you do this sentiment analysis. So for example, when we asked the AI tools about this client, they picked out that they were very specialized, they're very good at one certain area because they were focused very much on that, and that was their niche. They mentioned the professionalism because they were regulated and there was important information about members of a trade association. The AIs knew that this business was very affordable, which is quite important for this industry where it's often treated as a bit of a commodity purchase. So that was a really good thing to see, and showed that the positioning was very clear on the website and on the rest of the content about them. And the transparency piece. So we talked about the importance of transparency here. These AI tools are often looking for specific evidence that a business is transparent. It's not just enough to say, yeah, we're transparent, or we have great service. If you can have something very specific which shows that you're transparent, for example, in this situation, free consultations and clear communication, that's something that the AI tools can take back and communicate to the audience. Client centricity, and then the target audience. So really important that they can see the target audience. The AI tools know the target audience. And here's an interesting thing. If the AI tools don't know the target audience, probably your customers don't either. So this can be a really good sanity check on, hey, is it really clear who we're selling to? So that's useful. We also look for the pros. So what are the pros of doing business with them? And often there'll be some specific statistics that are raised here, which is all great stuff. We also ask for the cons, and this can be painful. None of us like to see the cons of working with our company, but I think it's important to recognize that there's absolutely no company that is perfect in every area. You might have the best product in the world. That probably means you're not going to be the cheapest. You might be the cheapest, but that probably means you're not going to have the best product in the world. So it's important to recognize and lean into these, but just to make sure that they're correct. Right? We don't want to be the world's second biggest polluter or something like that. We need to make sure that the cons are actually correct, and if they're not, then correct them. So for example, in this case, the business has limited service scope, which that's fine. That's a con that we actually agree with because the business does have limited service scope. Potential geographic limitations. Yeah, this business is based in one particular area. They sort of do a remote service, but ideally they would have clients in that area. So we're happy with that. Digital focus. Yep, happy to stand by that. That's absolutely right. Potential for additional costs. This is actually an incorrect con. So this is something where we'd want to go and correct that assumption, maybe through some content on the website or some digital PR that covered this topic to make sure it was clear that we had no additional charges or that additional charges will be communicated very clearly up front or, something like that. And here's another one, which actually needs to be corrected. High client volume. So the AIs perceived that because this business had a lot of clients, that therefore new clients would get less of a service. You get less personalized attention. Well, that's not necessarily the case at all, is it? If any of you who've built a scale business, you'll know that, like Explosion Ninja, right? We used to get people saying, I don't just want to be one of your many clients. I want to be like the most important client. And we'd say, well, of course, to the team who's working on a campaign, you will be the most important client, right? That, we can have lots of teams across the company so that they can each make that focus. But this is an example of a con that actually isn't true. It's an assumption by the AIs. So we might want to create some content on the website to kind of handle this objection so that these AI tools aren't then communicating that con back to the target audience. Okay, good stuff. So now let's go into the GEO recommendations. So throughout these first three things, you'll have been picking up lots of things that need to be fixed. How do we start prioritizing them and building them into a GEO game plan? Well, as with any digital marketing task, you don't have time to do everything right now. So it's all about prioritizing quick wins whilst building a plan to handle the longer term stuff. So typically, some of the things that we'll end up prioritizing as a result of all of this will be creating specific website content, maybe handling some of those objections. It might be collecting more reviews and ideally automating this collection as well. Something that we do for a lot of clients if we're doing an email marketing campaign is we'll try and automate the collection through email flows that go out after someone's signed up or after someone's purchased, incentivizing the reviews so that we get more reviews because those are going to feed the AI. Outreach, digital PR, and getting featured in different publications. Really, really, really important piece here. This is where we build that that outside knowledge of your business, because if you can get featured in some of the trade publications, some of the sites that are ranking well for best whatever type searches, that's a really good place to go. And then SEO, of course, to unlock the underlying search rankings. So basic SEO that you've been doing for years, hopefully. Of course, that's going to be quite key. And like I said before, there may be some more fundamental messaging and positioning work required. When Google first came to prominence, right, you'd be, let's say you were selling like garage doors, right? Or, right, we're going to go further back. So Yellow Pages. What got you business from Yellow Pages was being called A1 Garage Doors, right? Because when someone opened the Garage Doors page and they started from the top, A1 Garage Doors, great. And then you got AA11, triple A1s, and that was how you won the business. And people didn't really have time to go and phone all of these and ask, what's better about you? Like all of this, they may have got a few quotes, but that was about as far as they were going. Then when we moved to search and SEO became such a strong traffic driver, then it became about content and how much you could share and were you being found. Well, now we're moving beyond that even further to where these tools can actually go and do some proper research. We're seeing Perplexity recommending products. It's going to have a look at reviews of different products. It's aggregating information from a much wider source in order to recommend a product or a business. And that means that we need to have this messaging and the positioning really dialed in. If you're A1 Garage Doors and your only differentiator is that you're called A1, so you show up first alphabetically, that's not going to be enough to compete in a world where these tools are going out and doing a bit more digging. So this kind of positioning and messaging stuff becomes really, really important. And again, going back to the brand accelerator service that we offer, that's why we do it, because we see this as being a really important component of digital marketing moving forward. So some examples of some of the sort of recommendations that we make. I'm going to crack through these pretty quickly. So things like content readability. So someone asked earlier, what do these AI tools like? What format content do they really like to see? Well, To talk very briefly, particularly AI overviews likes content that agrees with the AI overview answer. Okay, AI overviews aren't going to link to you if you contradict all the information in the AI overview, because it wants to show websites that corroborate or agree with the information. So you need to agree. We've also noticed that they tend to prefer content that has very high readability. And this is just generally pretty good practice anyway, but we'll run readability tests on our clients' pages to have a look at how readable they are, because this can increase your visibility in search more generally. It can increase your user satisfaction, but it can also improve the amount of times that you're being ranked and referenced in AI overviews. So we'll look at this here, and you can see, number of pages and their readability scores there. It's not always possible to get very easy. If you're selling, my brother is in a company that builds the connectors for oil rig drill bits, right? That's not going to be readable by a first grade, person who can't read, right? There's just no way. That's too complex a topic. So that's going to be a technical topic. It's just about making sure it's not so impenetrable that no one can understand it. Okay, backlinks and PR, another area that we'll often look at. And in the GEO game plan, we actually build out a really detailed content and digital PR plan for you, because not only do you just want to make sure that your number of links is increasing, not only do you want to make sure those links are on high authority sites to get your rankings up, but we also need to make sure that you're being found in the sorts of sites that are ranking for recommendation type queries. Okay, so that content and digital PR piece is really important. Again, we don't have loads of time to go through this, but yeah, it's important. And what will typically come out of all of this is a series of priorities. In Exposure Ninja, we tend to do these by months because we work on a monthly cadence. So we'll say like month one is some real basic stuff, some low-hanging fruit, optimizing core web vitals, making sure your site's ranking quick, showing up quickly. CRO, CTA improvements, really important, because that's going to improve your conversion rate, which makes everything else look better. Making sure your data is tracking properly. This will depend on your business, but get the lowest hanging fruit stuff done quickest. That's the biggest lever. Then as you go through month two, you might be doing some key page optimizations. You might be tweaking some of the content on some of your key pages, any schema stuff, any medium priority technical fixes as well, maybe creating some new product or service pages to target some other phrases that you want to be showing up for. And then as we go, these are going to become either larger tasks, so improving readability, or they're going to be less important tasks like lower priority technical fixes. And then eventually things like link building. This is a massive ongoing project. And if we're doing an SEO and content marketing campaign, or a GEO and content marketing campaign for people, the link building and digital PR piece ends up becoming like the biggest ongoing piece of the campaign, because it's so important to keep publishing information, keep tweaking that and optimizing it, but also getting more and more content and links ranked. Eventually the goal is, you've got enough visibility in these platforms that when they ask a question like this, when you ask a question or your customers ask a question like this, bam, they just give you the answer that you want. So that's kind of where we're going with this. Right, we've got some great questions coming through. So before we get to those, we should have some time for plenty of Q&A. We have this as a service that we do for clients. I just want to spend literally like 1 minute telling you about it. So we do these GEO game plans. Obviously, I've cracked through some of the process that we use, but the thing itself is much more detailed. It takes the best part of a month. There's like 80 pages of research, and really importantly, it's not just here's a bunch of information, go and enjoy it. There's actually a prioritized action plan with what you should be focusing on in month 1, month 2, month 3, month 4, and ongoing. So if you're interested in this is a paid service. We do have to charge for it because it takes some really smart people a whole load of time, but you can find out more information or request a call about this at exposure.ninja/GEO. It includes everything that we've talked about here, plus more. So we also cover things like competitor analysis, which we haven't had time to go into here. And the digital PR content marketing plan is way more detailed than I would have time to run you through in this session. But it includes everything that you need to win at in GEO in 2025. So if you're looking at this and you're thinking, right, this is a big priority, then this is the best thing that you can do. We were at the B2B marketing show a couple of weeks ago now. It feels like forever ago, but a couple of weeks ago. And we had the same conversation a bunch of times, which was marketing manager comes up and says, my boss is playing with ChatGPT all day long, and they're saying to me, how do I get us ranked on this thing? How do I get this thing recommending us? Well, the simple answer is go and get an Exposure Ninja GEO game plan from exposure.ninja/GEO. This is the best thing that you can do if this is the most important thing to you. Now, cost. This is going to depend slightly on how much work is required, so how large the business is. I think they're around 7K. 7K GBP, so probably 9.5K USD or sort of equivalent. So if you're interested in that, you can book a call with the team to talk about it, or you can just go and request it immediately if you know that you want it. If you just want some more general help, then you can apply for the free website and marketing review. We do look at some of this stuff. Obviously, we can't go into anywhere near as much detail as we do in the actual GEO game plan, but you can request the free website and marketing review from exposureninja.com/review. Okay, so let's talk about some of these questions. I'm going to go through them in detail. Is there a company earnings limit to getting the game plan? Kim, no. This is a paid service, so if you can buy the paid service, we do the thing for you. So it doesn't matter how big or small you are. Andy says, how do I get these to show in the search? Oh, I can't. There we go. Any GEO advice for launching a new brand and website? Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit like SEO advice, really. You just have to start. You just have to get stuck in. But one thing I would say, Andy, is some of the branding and positioning and the messaging stuff, it's really a lot easier to get that tight from the start than it is to go to a business that's been fairly generic in its approach, generic in its positioning, and then try and force that stuff in. It's much easier to come up with a really cool positioning. Like, what are the 5 bullet points or even 3 bullet points that you say to someone that makes them go, oh, amazing, I'm going to buy for you rather than anybody else? Right? That's really, really key. And if you can get that throughout your marketing material as you start, then these AI tools are going to understand that about your business from the word go. So it's much easier to get that stuff right than it is to sort of retrofit. Okay, so we got some questions about readability from Lisa. Oh, that might be a bit more detailed. Okay. Angelique says, I searched my professional business name on Gemini and it couldn't find me. What to do? It's a really difficult question to answer very concisely. I would check the other tools and see if it's just a Gemini problem. If it's just a Gemini problem, it might just be a case of, making a page like, who is blah, blah, blah. So there was some really early search manipulation AI stuff that I did, which was information about my personal name, who is Tim Cameron Kitchen, and found that particularly with Gemini and AI overviews, if you just wrote a post like, who is Tim Cameron Kitchen, you could write pretty much whatever you wanted on that page. If it knew that the website was associated with you, if it knew that you were the author's page, then that information would just pull through to the answer. So you could try that. How do we check readability? Yeah, so you can use AI to rate your ability. Yes, you can. Brittany says you can. I think you got to be careful because a lot of these these AI tools will answer the question that you give them, and they'll answer it in a very convincing way, even if they have absolutely no idea. I'm trying to remember, oh right, yeah. So I was talking to someone the other day who said we weren't ranking on ChatGPT. No, we weren't ranking on ChatGPT. So I asked ChatGPT how it knew which websites to rank, and it told me. And I'm like, yeah, and it told you a whole bunch of crap because ChatGPT itself doesn't have any idea how it's ranking, how it's getting that information. Okay, it's not consulting some sort of algorithm. It doesn't have that knowledge. It's hallucinating that answer. So you need to know the limitations of these services. And I'll be really careful about things like readability because they could stray into this area. If the AI tool actually is unable to check readability, and I don't know if they are or not, But if it's unable to check readability, it's going to make up some answer that may or may not be accurate. So yeah, like the Hemingway tool, really, really good. Grammarly also has one, I think Dale said, which might be much more reliable for some of these tools. Okay, do the AI tools have bias based on previous chats, which may influence what they bring back? Yes, they can do, Rob, particularly ChatGPT. ChatGPT has memory, and if it updates, if you're talking to it a lot, it can update its memory and feed you answers back based on personalized results. So a little bit like, Google incognito search. Back in the early days of SEO, you'd have people saying, hey, Explosion Ninja, this is working really well. We're ranking position 1 after, 1 day of doing SEO with you. And it's like, no, you've just searched for yourself 5 times today and clicked on your website every time. So for your personal search, Google's now ranking you number 1. So you got to be careful of a similar thing here as well. Okay, Lisa says, test now. First time I use Perplexity, it says my magazine is published monthly, which it's not. It's 3 times a year. Make stuff up. How can it rage? How the heck can I rage against the machine and get that lie changed? There's no entity to complain about. So there's scary implications. Yeah, but it's just a tool, isn't it, Lisa? And I think what we need to do there is Perplexity has not found a reliable answer to that question. So it's had to find it from other places, or it's made something up. So that's just the case of a piece of content that ranks for how often is magazine published, and it says it's published 3 times a year, and then that answer will be corrected. So a lot of what we see here is actually content gaps. If you search Google for that query, there probably wouldn't be any answer at all. Whereas the AI tools don't say, I don't know. They say something, right? So if there are these inaccuracies, that's what I mean about the pros and cons and the sentiment analysis. Part of this is finding those content gaps where there actually isn't any reliable information online, and it's an opportunity to correct that story by writing that content on your site. Okay, Oliver said, AI tools seem to have an agreeability bias in that they aim to force in an agreement to your question. How can we question the AI tools about our brand without reinforcing the agreeability bias? Good question. A couple of different ways. Firstly, you don't need to say that it's your brand you're asking about. You might frame the question as I'm reviewing a competitor to my business. What are some of the downsides of working with this competitor that I could emphasize in my own marketing? Right, and then you're more likely to get some juicy goss. The other way is, I want you to assume that you're a cynical, horrible person that always looks for the downsides. What would be the cons of working with my business, right? So there's different ways of doing it. How do you cope with hallucination? What, personally? How do you cope with hallucination? All of these tools have a tendency or a possibility of hallucination. But again, I think a lot of hallucination is what we talked about earlier. The ones that are doing an underlying web search, often what looks like a hallucination is actually that they just don't have a good answer to the question. So we need to provide that answer to question, and then the hallucination disappears. Wow, there's a lot of questions here. This is awesome. I wanted to work with you guys. Potentially refer. Okay, fine. Yeah, all right, cool. Happy to do that, Sarah. Oh, I see. Right, so Sarah's saying there is a minimum level, for the free review. Yes. So just on the free review, we're not able to review every single website because we get so many requests. We have a team of, 4 people who just spend their entire lives doing reviews, and we still don't have enough people to do the reviews. So we have to have some threshold. But if you want to work on the geo game plan, go to exposure.ninja/geo. Anyone is eligible to that. I give Exposure Ninja 10 stars for this. 10 starts for this seminar, not 10 stars. Okay, sad times. If we can move from starts to stars, then happy days. Thanks, Lisa. Oh, stars. There we go. Thanks, Lisa. Our internal SEO says there is not much data yet on our keywords. I believe he's talking about out of Google Ads, but is the keyword data not done on Google Keyword Planner or Ahrefs or something like that? You can do the keyword research any way you like. You can use SE rankings, SEMrush, Google Ads. Here's the thing I would say about all of these tools, though, and we've had this conversation a lot in Exposure Ninja over the years. Even if your data says there's no search volume for this, if you know that your users are searching for these terms, you're still going to optimize for them, right? The first website I ever built for Ben the Plasterer, if you've read the book, you'll know Ben the Plasterer. Google told me that there was 0 search volume for the keyword that I got him ranked at top of Google, that he was able to buy a house from. So that taught me really early on that all of these keyword tools, particularly for lower search volumes, they're not that accurate. Okay, so we would always say to our SEO team and our clients, if you know that this is what your audience is going to be searching for, if this is the best keyword to target, just target the keyword, right? Even if it says there's no search volume, you may only need a few searches a month of really high intent to make all the money back. So, yeah, exactly what Dale said. Great advice, Dale. They always have some good advice. How can we trust Google, for example, to recommend sites in AI results that pay Google for ads if they do not give priority to PPC buyers and AI results are the next big thing? Why would PPC buyers keep buying ads? Okay, but this is just like Google search anyway, right? This is just like Google search anyway. How can we trust them to show Google organic results? Because Google's organic results are what keep people coming back to click on the AI ads, to click on the PPC ads. It's been a long day to click on the ads. So they need to maintain the integrity of the results, which, by the way, is why Sam Altman was so skeptical about running ads in ChatGPT. They need to maintain the integrity of the answers in order to keep people coming back. Otherwise, they lose market share to someone who's going to have more integrity. And that is catastrophic for the business. So they can't do that. So that's how we can trust it. What the ad product is looking like. So, okay, so here's another lesson about AI overviews. I've been noticing personally that the AI overview can lead to a dramatic shortening of the buyer journey. So this was most important for me in the construction business that I bought, where I went from very informational term, can I get an accreditation for this particular thing? The AI overview said, yes, you can. It told me a bunch more information, and then it actually linked me to a business that offered this accreditation. Now, I went from informational search, I didn't do any other research, to a commercial click, and ended up becoming a lead. And by the way, it's a client of Exposure Ninja, so we'd done that. And that was amazing. I thought, this would have previously been 5 different searches maybe before I even became eligible to become a commercial search. But this AI answer has taken me from top of funnel to really at the bottom of the funnel immediately. And I think that is what Google will use with their ads. So the opportunity to provide commercial next steps ads in even informational searches, I think is actually huge. You wouldn't do that in organic search. If I just search for, I don't know, what would be an example of a search? How do I make better videos at home, right? And there was an ad for a tripod. Well, that ad would have really low click-through rate because people would be like, well, what? That's not the information I was looking for. Whereas if there was an AI overview that said, you can make better videos from ads, here's some of the equipment that you're going to need. And by the way, one of the key things to making better videos is stability. And a great tripod can make this more stable. And by the way, here's a tripod. Well, that ad is going to have a lot higher click-through rate because that person has been pushed through the buyer journey, ready to the bottom of the funnel. Does that make sense? So I think that's where ads are really, really going to take off in AI overviews, and potentially for searches that previously wouldn't have triggered searches, ads. Right. Here we go. In the era of AI searches, is there a change in links values? Like, is a link from the blog still worth it? Is a link from Reddit that before was not so cool, now it's better? There's 2 answers to this, right? There's the link that gets you ranking in the underlying search, which hasn't changed. So that's still really important. Yeah, you get more links to your website, you improve your ranking in the organic search, and that gets you recommended more in the AI. And then there is the feature on that website. So being mentioned, being referenced on that website. I think links become more important. And although Google AI Overviews doesn't use Reddit, at least not very often in its answers, ChatGPT and Perplexity, I think, do use Reddit. So I think those recommendations become slightly more useful. But yeah, all links become more useful in AI. Lisa, do you have a less expensive plan for those of us who are just starting out who need geo game plan but can't? I would say, Lisa, if you go on that page, you should be able to book a call with the team. Probably Freddie, Nick, Andrea, or Rich. If you say to them what you've just said there, they might be able to work something out. No promises, but they might be able to work something out, i.e. like a smaller version of it, or maybe less in certain areas that take more work or something like that. Yeah. Is there an AI tool you would specifically recommend? I mean, okay, two things for me. So if I'm doing a research thing, Perplexity is freaking sick. So I needed to value the asset list of a business that was in administration. And this would have previously taken someone, probably not me, but it would have taken someone a couple hours to do. I just copied the whole thing. There was vehicles, there was like manufacturing equipment, all sorts of stuff. Just copied the whole thing, stuck it in Perplexity, said, value this for me. It went and did analysis of each of the items in the asset register and gave me a valuation. Then it calculated all of them and gave me a total value. I mean, how freaking awesome is that? That's Perplexity. That's great. But the tool that I use most is Claude. If you don't follow me on LinkedIn, I've basically built a personal coach in Claude using projects. So I trained this thing I gave it my goals and my sort of my plans, and then I arranged a daily check-in with it and then a weekly planning session. And this thing is brutal. It kicks my ass. It tells me I need to stop doing certain things because they're a poor use of time. It tells me what I should be doing. It's incredible. So Claude and Perplexity are my two go-tos. Yes. Sarah says, I use ChatGPT for copy. Used to use Claude. Any recommendations for copy? Also to help with SEO specifically, like keywords. The keyword stuff is interesting because all of these tools will hallucinate keyword data for you. If you say, which keyword should I target? They'll all give you a whole bunch of rubbish that has absolutely no bearing in actual data. So I'll be careful about that. But for copy, we often use ChatGPT. Content Shake AI is great. Jasper has a tap tool. Yeah, I mean, personally, I really like the Canvas feature in ChatGPT. Because the Canvas feature allows you to sort of collaborate on the copy with it. I think that's one of the tools that the team uses here as well. Wow, there's a lot of questions. Gemma says, how do you resolve the readability aspects when your audience are technical and require the information to be technical? That's fine, Gemma. If your audience require it to be technical, and if you need to be technical in order to be credible, then that's absolutely fine. You have to be true to your audience. Don't write for Homer Simpson if Homer Simpson is not your target audience. And, we just got to hope that the AI tools respect that. Oh my gosh, there's so much here. What's this one? Bringing down. I can't even see their post. Sometimes search. So many questions. I'm going to be here for as long as I can. Sometimes I see Google Search Console will say, sometimes I see that Google Search Console will say our page is ranking number 2 for a keyword. When searching in the UK, that may not be the case. How can we check our ranking in another country, ISD, US? Will this require a VPN? I mean, it's never completely exact, is the downside of all of this. You can check using, we use SEMrush. Do you know what? SEMrush has an incredible local tool. That's another story. SEMrush is pretty good because you can choose your location. SEMrush has an incredible local tool where you can even search for local visibility. So let's say that you're that we got a link for this as well. You can get a free trial of this. I think it's exposure.ninja/local maybe. But if you're a local business, nice one. If you're a local business, let's say that you're I'm going to use dentist because we all know dentists. If you're a dentist in Bristol, now Bristol's quite a big city, you can put this in SEMrush and you can say, I want to target people within a 3-mile radius. And then you can put lots of pins on a map showing, I want to know where I'm ranking in all of these places. And then SEMrush will show you basically a map showing, oh, you're position 2 here, you're position 3 here, position 1 here, all based on the local rankings. So there's some really, really cool tools like SEMrush. I don't know how they get the data. I'm not sure I even want to know, but amazing, amazing tools that can allow you to get that type of data. Right. Wow, we've got a lot of questions. Have you ever heard of Hike SEO for smaller businesses? SEMrush seems to be very complicated for business training. I have heard of Hike SEO. I'm not going to say anything about that. SEMrush is sick. Yeah. Claude artifacts is so rad. Yeah, totally agree. Okay, you see some forwarding URLs from amazing. Does this activity help in AI search? Is it agnostic to AI overviews? I mean, like this is like the same question as an SEO question, right? It shouldn't make any difference because it's not going to be the forwarding URL that is ranking. So, for example, exposure.ninja/local or /geo, right? That is a forwarding URL, but that's not the URL that's going to rank on Google. Google's going to rank the underlying URL, so it shouldn't make a difference. Okay. How do you resolve the video? Okay, I think that should be it. I think I've done all the questions. Thank you, Dale, for co-piloting. Oh, no, there is a couple more. We've got Ken, Q for bookmark. One of the marketing against the grain things is geo. There are links in their answers, but they barely click them. They think maybe there's a 1 in 20 click rate. I don't think anybody knows that. I don't think anyone knows that for certain at all. And I think it's going to vary massively depending on the search. Because a bottom of funnel search where I can't get the result I'm after without clicking through to a website, for example, a purchase, is going to have a much higher click-through rate. If I'm just looking for information, this is the same as any. So what's the weather in Cobham today? That's going to have a click-through rate of basically 0, because even if I can rank for that, the answer is just in the search result. I just needed, that's like a commodity piece of information. What's the definition of tripod, right? What 0 click-through rate, because I just get the answer. So that's going to have a very low click-through rate. But more advanced searches where you're looking for expert information are going to have a much higher click-through rate. I'll give you another type of example. So one of the things that we're thinking about a lot at the moment is businesses that have unique data that they can post on their website to give AI overviews more detail. So what would be an example? How much does a heat pump reduce my energy costs by? How much does a heat pump reduce my my heating bills by, for example? The AI overview will give a particular answer. But if you've got a page that's ranking, which has, and let's say that the title is something like energy savings by house type and different heat pump models, you're going to get a much higher click-through rate from that because there's data there, right? So I think this is all about, it depends on the search and it depends on the title of the content that's ranking. This is up to us. And I think we're going to get to a point where if you're just providing generic default information, you're not going to get that visibility in the AI overviews, just like you don't get that visibility in regular search if you're not getting the clicks. So Google is going to be looking at the click data. So it's up to us. John says, in theory, it's possible to be off a search results page because of where Google chose to place generative search results than those who rank first using traditional SEO techniques. Yes. If you're asking, can you leapfrog first position in regular organic results and get straight into AI overviews? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Sam says, very excited to hear about Geo Game Plan. Definitely curious to hear your thoughts on how to do this for a local biz. Good question, Sam. So in SGE, when Google was testing this whole thing and it used SGE, there were local results, and the local results in SGE mirrored the local map pack completely. Like it was the same thing. Google basically just recited the map pack, but with a much worse UI. Now that it's rolled out AI overviews, I'm not seeing that at all. I'm not seeing any local listings in AI overviews whatsoever. But we do know that this is where Google wants to go, because if we go all the way back to the developer conference in May 2023, when Google first talked about multi-step reasoning, I think it was that one, they were using local examples in their search. So we know that this is coming for local. It's just not here yet. And we haven't seen a version of this that they seem to be pushing public. So I'd get the Geo game plan. We can have a look at all of this stuff, all the local visibility stuff anyway, as part of the, the SEO benchmarking at the start, and then start to think about some of this stuff in the future. So when it comes, you're ready. How do I get my business featured in these large news sources? That seems to be the most challenging answer here. Good question, Oliver. So these are things like if you're searching for best thing and it's ranking a bunch of best articles. So there's two answers to this question. Firstly, some of these things will just want paying, right? Let's be honest. Sometimes you just have to go to them and say, hey, how much is it going to cost me to get my business featured here? And then sometimes it's going to be a case of reaching out and saying, hey, I noticed you put together this article for the best backpacks for mountain bikers 2023. Are you planning on doing an updated 2025 version? I'd love to send you one of my backpacks and a bit of information about why people tend to choose these, particularly given that they're all handmade and they help they're 30% lighter than any of the market contenders, right? So this is just ordinary digital PR outreach. It's brutal. It takes absolutely freaking ages. You got to be super persistent. You got to love getting rejected because it's virtually all you're going to get. But then you get that breakthrough that makes it all worthwhile. Is for offering analytics measure? No, there's no geo generated traffic at this. No, there is for ChatGPT, Perplexity, any tool that sends referral traffic. So you will see referral traffic in your Google Analytics traffic sources. You will not see AI overviews traffic being broken out. Okay, I think. Oh, we've got another question from Jacob. Right, if you got any last questions, quick, stick them in because I need a break. Is YouTube going to be featured in overviews? Is this the time to push the video creation game? Yes. Yes is the answer. So YouTube videos are being used in AI overviews. I think it's mostly in the US. Dale will be able to correct me because Dale, you brought this story to the podcast maybe last week or something. So yes, it's coming. But the other thing is a lot of these tools are training on videos. So this is absolutely the time to be pushing into the video creation game because these tools are also training on videos. And if somebody wants a video response at some point in the future, it'll be great for them to see your video in that response. Dale says, yes, they're coming. Thank you, Dale. Okay. Whew. Love you all. Gemini 2 was just released. Wow. I mean, I don't know if anybody else is enjoying the 12 days of OpenAI, but some of these releases are freaking sick. We've got Gemini released now. This is absolutely amazing. Should we just take a quick look? What's going on with Gemini 2.0? Wow, this is awesome. I can't wait to see this because Gemini obviously has a massive context window, right? So it's one of the tools that has the largest context window. Launching a new feature called Deep Research, which uses advanced reasoning and long context capabilities to act as a research assistant. Yes, compiling reports on your behalf. Oh, sick. Amazing. Okay, great. They're also talking about bringing the advanced reasoning capabilities of Gemini 2 to AI overviews. Oh, dude. Okay, so everything we just said goes to 10x because Google has been working on some amazing stuff behind the scenes. Their multi-step reasoning piece where, we talked about Perplexity doing these searches and then aggregating the results and giving you the information. They're literally just released this. Gemini 2, they're saying it's way more in detail. It uses advanced reasoning and the super long context capabilities, which Gemini has been known for, to act as a research assistant, exploring complex topics and compiling reports on your behalf. And they're going to push this into AI overviews. How sick is that? Amazing. They started limited testing this week. It'll be rolled out more broadly early next year. Okay, fantastic. Oh, it's just extraordinary to see this coming, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Amazing. Well, I'm going to get stuck into this. What's it doing on the benchmarks? Okay, it looks like it's better on most of the benchmarks. Reasoning significantly better on the reasoning. Looks like it's about 20% better on the reasoning. So that's going to be huge. Interestingly, not as good with long context. It's actually got a performance drop on long context, which is kind of interesting. Better with image, better with video, better with audio. Okay, great. Sweet. How cool is that? So go and play with that. We'll be covering this on the podcast or something next week. How awesome is that? How awesome is that it's happening right now? Okay. Talk soon, everyone. Hope you enjoyed this. Go and sign up for the Geo game plan at exposure.ninja/Geo. This stuff just became 10 times more relevant live. Love it. Thanks, everyone. Talk soon. Thanks, Sam. That means the world. Yeah, we love you. And thanks to Dale for co-piloting this. Dale was going to do a bunch of work, but instead they stuck around with us. That's great. All right.